Hello, welcome to Wednesday with Willie devotional. And today I want to talk with you about something that our hearts long for, especially at this time of the year, Christmas, and that is peace. Last week I talked to you about hope. This week it's about peace. They really are connected, aren't they? But if we're honest, peace often feels incredibly elusive, far away from our actual experience. For many people, Christmas isn't a season of quiet joy. It's a season when grief feels heavier, relationships feel more strained, and the world feels anything but peaceful. Today, I want to share with you one of my favorite stories that captures this tension. In the early 1860s, as America was torn apart by the Civil War, the poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow faced heartbreak on every side in his life. His son ran away to join the Union Army and came home severely wounded. And 2 years earlier, Longfellow's wife died suddenly in a tragic accident. That first Christmas without her, he wrote in his journal, "How inexpressibly sad are all holidays." I think many of you can identify with that. I know I can and have. Months later, still grieving, he wrote these words in his journal: "Perhaps someday God will give me peace." I think there's a little bit of hope there, a little bit. On Christmas Day, 1863, as church bells rang across the snowy landscape of New England, Longfellow sat in despair. The angel's message of peace on earth, goodwill to men, it felt like a cruel joke to him. And out of this dark moment, he wrote a poem, what we now know as "I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day." Here are a couple of verses. "I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men." But then came the heartbreaking verse, "And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth," I said, "for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men." Longfellow's words are raw, honest, and human. We all face moments when peace feels impossible. The despair after losing a loved one, the despair of a marriage drifting into the distance, the despair of a child who rejects the values that you have poured into them, the despair of a diagnosis that shakes your world, the despair of a career that just feels stuck, or maybe a hidden sin that you just cannot break. And you ask the question, is there any word for, from God for moments like these? Is peace still possible? And the answer is yes. And the Bible tells us how. The Apostle Peter writes to believers walking through suffering. And in 1 Peter chapter 3, he says, "Seek peace and pursue it." In other words, don't give up on peace. Don't sit and wait for it to drift into your life. Chase after it. Go in search of it. Peace is not automatic, not with God, nor with other people. So let's think about this for a moment, because a lot of us maybe are dealing with how do we seek and pursue peace with other people? With someone who has hurt us, you ask. Well, again, the Apostle Peter says, "Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult." He's talking about revenge. Revenge will never grow peace. Romans 12:18 adds two crucial qualifiers. I've got this underlined in my Bible. I try to live by it. I encourage other people to do the same thing. And when it comes to our seeking peace in our relationships, there are two crucial principles or qualifiers. Here's the verse. "If it is possible, As far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Now, there are two principles. In order to live at peace with everyone, there are two principles or two qualifiers here. The first one, if it is possible. Some people simply will not allow peace. Their bitterness, their selfishness, or their hurt just blocks the reconciliation. Secondly, that second qualifier is as far as it depends on you. You, I, take responsibility for our words. We take responsibility for our attitude. We take responsibility for our actions. Now, let me say very clearly, this peace that Paul is talking about, that pursuing this peace is not peace at any price, but it is refusing to make things worse. It is choosing grace when revenge feels a lot easier. And pursuing peace prevents regrets that we cannot undo. But here's the big question. How is any of this possible? Where do we find the strength to pursue this kind of peace? Isaiah 9, verse 6, a familiar passage for us at Advent and Christmas, calls Jesus the Prince of Peace. Jesus came to bring God's peace into fractured, anxious, hurting hearts like yours and mine. His peace in us makes peace with others possible. His peace is deeper than circumstances we find ourselves in. And his peace cannot be taken by the world because it was never given by the world. Jesus said in John 14, verse 27, before he went back to heaven, he said, I am leaving you with a gift. In fact, this is a verse even before he went to the cross. On that last night with his disciples, he says, I'm leaving you with a gift. And what was that gift? I'm leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart, a peace that the world does not have. And so God, through Jesus Christ, gives us peace with our past, forgiveness for all of our regrets. God's peace gives us peace in the present, knowing God cares for us. And God's peace gives us peace for the future, confidence that He will never leave us, He will never forsake us. Let's go back to I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. Near the end of his poem, Longfellow's despair begins to lift. It's almost like God is working in his heart and mind as he's writing this. But his despair begins to lift, not because his circumstances changed, but because he remembered who God is. Here's the verse. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. Hope returns when we remember the God of peace still reigns. Hope returns when we remember that the God of peace still reigns. We will not see global peace until Jesus returns. That's just the way the Bible presents it. But you can experience peace, deep inner God given peace right now, today, in your heart and in your relationships, when you turn all of that over to the Prince of Peace, Jesus, and pursue peace with those around you. May the peace of Christ fill your heart this Christmas. And thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today on Wednesday with Willie.